So, you're probably wondering who that is. That guy? That's Jesus G, also known as Frosty Johnson. Frosty survived 3 Navy SEAL Hell Weeks, dozens of 100-milers, and getting married. Pretty remarkable if you ask me. Oh yeah, he's also one of the only person that I've actually been able to trust. One of the only people. Apologies. So, today I'm going to discuss what I've learned about my attachment style that I've recently discovered, which is indeed fearful avoidant. And I'll be discussing experiences that I've had so you could potentially relate and hopefully find some solace knowing that you're not alone. You're not the only person to have experienced these shitty things. If you do feel like you have related at some point, feel free to leave a comment and tell me your story. I absolutely love hearing and learning from you. So, without further ado, here's the information I've got for you. Just as a warning, the camera is going to be on Frosty, so here you go. If you got abused your whole fucking life, the odds that you want to do something are very high, but the chances that you actually take the action once you get to that point that you have to take action are very low. This is called the fearful avoidance style, and you pretty much learn it because your family fucked you up, and every time you ever exposed yourself, became vulnerable, like told somebody the truth, it would later be used against you. So then you learn that being vulnerable isn't a good thing, so you just learn to avoid it. But there's a part inside of you that is just dying to, it's like dying to be emotional and like have like life instead of just everything being logic and like avoiding everything. There's a part of you that's craving connection like crazy. Basically, this starts because you're really bad at setting boundaries. So this could be either physical, emotional, whatever. When I say emotional, like let's say your mom just yelled at you for some crazy shit, completely unjustified, and then like 10 seconds later, once she sees that she really hurt you, she like starts crying and instead just tries to hug you. Like think of how it's like, you just bothered me so much, you just pissed me off so much, you made me feel like shit. Why would I want to hug you? But in that situation, I was always like, I feel really bad, and also like I don't really get this in the first place. Like I didn't respond properly. Like in that situation, you're just supposed to be like, no, I'm not going to hug you. You treated me like shit. This is not okay. Like this is my boundary. But if you live in like this type of household, then you're more likely to let people walk all over you, and this is a big part of that. Basically, you get punished for expressing any sort of boundary. Like if you get angry, you get punished. Like I'm sure you've experienced that a lot. My mom would like literally abuse me physically. She'd like hit me and all this stuff. And then when I would like restrain her or like push her away, like not to like cause any sort of harm, but to like get out of the situation, she would threaten to like call the cops on me and stuff. Like think how fucking
yeah.
and would say like, I'm gonna tell them that like you hit me. Like think how fucking crazy that is. So this could stem from things like that, love being withheld, like the example I gave earlier, like I don't get much hugs, but like this is a really fucked up situation, it's not time to get a hug, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I'm not really flowing too crazy when I say this, but these types of people tend to be really attuned to other people and invested in other people rather than invested in themselves. Because for the most part, they can't really like be a person. Each time they're ever trying to be a person, like the thing with my mom and the ping pong, like I love ping pong, so like when we're getting excited, and like I get to express the joy that I get from actually doing something, and then like my mom sees that and punishes me for it. She's like, scolds me, like, why are you jumping? Why are you excited? Why are you playing? You're 25, you're playing ping pong with your friends. Are you serious? That type of shit. So these types of people also don't really communicate in a relationship when they feel like they're getting fucked. Like they'll endure it because they can't really set the boundaries. Like they just never learn to be like, you know what, you're literally screaming in my face. I'm gonna step away. I'm not gonna hug you. So I noticed that myself. Like I have difficulty bringing it up to people when like something's not right. Like at my last job, for example, like it took me mad long to even mention it to people. It had to hit like a breaking point. So basically, these people are unwilling to be vulnerable unless the person can't judge them, and that would explain why I have so many online friends. Like I've exposed myself more to random people, random strangers on the internet, like a random ass woman from World of Warcraft Classic, like in her 30s, more than I've like ever done with anybody in real life. And it's because like whenever I try that in this environment, it's you're always getting punished for, you're getting judged, like you're being told you're mediocre for starting, and then the person who's judging you hasn't even started themselves. They don't try, they don't give a fuck about any of it. So that would explain a lot of the online friends. Also, these types of people are intense pleasure seekers because you're trying to balance out your dog shit life. And like your body, your brain unconsciously has a very good way of being like in a homeostatic state, like being balanced basically. So when you endure extreme abuse, then like you want extreme pleasure, like playing video games for 14 hours straight. Fearful avoidants are very good at deep emotional connection and being a person who creates like a safe environment for other people to share their shit, but they don't necessarily like do that themselves. Like they don't express themselves pretty much. They don't like look for that type of stuff in the relationship. They'll provide it for other people, but like these people just avoid like getting emotional, which apparently it's just best to integrate being emotional. I've been thinking about that statement and what that really means. And I think a lot of it has to do with not trying to resist when you go into that crash state, when you get the high of like being logical, doing really well, and then somebody triggers you and treats you like shit, and then you're going back down. Basically, like learning how to exist and not feel like shit the whole time. Like it's actually okay to feel like shit. I think the suppression of that part of like the fearful part, that's what ruins your life pretty much. But like being avoidant is it's so nice and easy. Like why ever get hurt when you could just avoid it altogether, you know? But if you could look, like I'm still learning what that means, but if you could learn to control, if you could learn to be yourself, the logical part, and then also integrate that emotional part, like understanding that your day could just turn to shit in the snap of a finger, and like kind of embracing that that's what makes you human. I think that cognitive reframe is really nice. This is like a side note, but these people tend not to have much drama in friendships, but romantically, they're so invested. The fearful avoidant is so invested in his relationship, his romantic relationship, and he like relies so heavily on his partner to like kind of, I guess, I don't even know what to say it is, reinforce that emotional side and let them like live like in a whole manner. Basically not just being too leaning towards one side, the avoidant, like, you know, being balanced. Those relationships can get mad and healthy, and apparently they are like the best. They have the highest, not the best, the highest volume of relationships because they tend to be so emotional all the time and then feel the need to like fill that gap. And usually that's like what relationships can help with. So basically it's just a constant push-pull. It's always pulling towards one side, the anxious, when somebody like triggers you, and then your homeostatic state is to be avoidant and logical, which is like normal. Like when I don't feel the need to go and be an addict, for example, and I just produce all day. Like there are two different me's, pretty much. That I just go back and forth. The real battle is when you actually have to take action, because the fearful avoidant wants all these things. Like I've wanted a relationship, I've wanted to go on like a vacation, I've wanted to like go to this place with I don't know, just people. And then like when the time comes, I'm just like, I gotta do this now. Like it is really easy to sit there and fantasize about it in my head, but like now I have to trust people. Now I have to like go out and actually do this type of stuff. Like damn. Now I also have to take risks that like I've never done. So why not just avoid it all? So avoidant, logical, anxious, emotional. I never really knew that. I never really understood that.
What?
The geeks and the nerds that don't get any bitches, the reason they are so logical is because they're really good at avoiding. They're not very good at processing emotion and taking action despite the emotion. They're really good at getting hit with an emotion, taking a step back because those skills, those parts of your brain are so weak, and using your normal like circuitry, which is going to be the logical part, and then like coming to a conclusion with that. But there's a reason those people fail in social situations. It's because you're not using the logical part of your brain when it comes to social situations. Yeah. You're not using the logical part of your brain when you're in that crash state and you're super emotional. Like that part of your brain just screws you. It just feels like you're resisting. And lastly, there are like a couple of main things that really define a fearful avoidant.
Yo, that's crazy, because trying to have a logical and emotional conversation at the same time is just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
You're insane. Holy fuck. Oh shit. Oh my god. It's like a fucking couple having like a man having a logical argument for his wife's emotional response, bro.
Yeah, that's why it doesn't. That's why
it
never works.
It can't work like that.
That's why it never comes to any work. But that's why women have actually come to really love like the shit that I've, I guess, provided, because when they're like talking about their problems and stuff, instead of just being like, babe, it's not worth it, just stop thinking about it. It's like, I understand. That would piss me off a lot too. It's a completely different part of your brain, and that has a lot more to do with connection than just logicking everything out. And honestly, if everything was just logic, like, we'd be robots. Like, there'd be no beauty to being human. Yeah. So there are lastly, there are three main things that really define this. Fear of abandonment, which that can be hard to understand, but it manifests in this. The moment, at least in my case, the moment somebody says, I want to be like your partner or some shit, like I like, let's go on a date, I'm just like, do I really, like, before I had the opportunity, I was just like, let's go, I want a relationship, like, let's do it, like, that would make me so happy. And then when I actually get there, it's like, do I really want this? Is this person good enough? Am I, like, gonna be able to, whatever, like, all of this shit, that's actually fear of abandonment. It's, I'm gonna cut this person off before I can expose my feelings and be vulnerable and then, like, have something real, because then I can get hurt. So I'm just gonna completely cut it off before any of that can happen. And funny story, my lovely Polish mother abandoned me in the BJ's when I was like 4.
Jeez. So
I'm sure there was like some unconscious shit going on there.
Fuck.
And then, yeah, so fear of rejection, which, if you grew up in an abusive household, you just get rejected all the time. And then your serotonin is low, so you go out into the real world, and then you get rejected anyways because you're not as confident as the people without these problems. Fear of abandonment, I'm going to self-sabotage before anything real can happen. because that way I could just stay in the same place and not be hurt, which is like the worst kind of suffering if you're living in a shitty place to begin with. And then not being loved for not performing. So I literally made a YouTube video about this shit. Like I told my mom I got like a 60 on a religion test. She just absolutely ruined my day and just like we were going on like a trip. It was supposed to be fun. Just like completely ruined. And that has been in my head ever since. And that's a common theme in my